Hello, everyone. I am pouring myself a nice tall glass of fuck men today. Originally, this was intended to be kind of a discussion of like misogyny and misandry and the female experience on the internet. It has kind of since then grown into we're getting drunk and everybody's invited, which is totally fine by me. But I did want to sort of shout out in particular our guests today. We have Rax King, Beard nominated author. We have Levitt Alone, probably award winning. Have you won awards, John?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, you will someday, I'm sure. We have Andrea, this week, I think is just a host, and Charlie Winters, y'all know. And there's me, there's Kennedy, the OG3, if we include Andrea, which I do.
Am I official? Am I in now? Is it?
The OG3 is just any three people that we feel like.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. Wonderful.
So yeah, how's everybody's week been?
I don't know what day it is. Is it Friday?
Yeah.
Pretty good then, I guess. I don't know. I don't keep track of time in weeks anymore, or months,
It's all
or
kinds
seasons.
of weird.
Honestly, I just don't keep track of time.
Mm-hmm.
I got a rip-off calendar, except every little page is randomized, so I don't know what day it is.
Mm-hmm. I would say, like, time stopped being real in March, and it was real for the Not Safe for Wonks cast last week specifically, and then otherwise has failed to return to existing.
Yeah,
That
I had another case of waking up and going, oh, it's early. I woke up at 6 p.m.
Oh no!
That happens.
That has now happened twice. So,
Now, when did you go to sleep?
3.
Okay.
So
The real
I
plan is to not know when you fall asleep. The last memory you have is like 8 hours before you fall asleep. That way, anything could happen.
Well, it's the middle of summer too, so the days are so long that I legitimately forget if night has occurred.
Sounds about right.
Brandon, you are the best of us. You are God King. I would, blah, blah. I like Brandon. Don't tell Brandon. Well, yeah, time doesn't mean anything anymore. Days don't mean anything anymore. This just sort of the endless drone of the internet. And we are the drone. And it's great. So, Rax, tell us a little bit about you. I can lead by saying I look up to you a whole lot. I follow you on Twitter. You are like the e-thought I aspire to become. And one of the things in particular that I really appreciate is that you seem to also understand the way to sort of manipulate the male gaze and use it to direct attention towards things that you want them to pay attention to instead of just you specifically.
I try to. I'd like to think that's something I'm able to do. At the end of the day, I really think that in as much as there is like a universal male gaze, it's going to do whatever it wants to do. And you can really only marshal it so far. And I am able to get them to throw money where I want them to throw it sometimes. And it mostly works out for me okay. Although I did just lose my job. So
That's
Don't
no
know what
good.
happened with that.
yeah. Oh, this is fun. I should start off by saying that I actually, but my hand was forced. Somebody, I don't know who, found my like legal information, which does not match up with my Twitter information, and forwarded a bunch of my tweets to my boss, and along with the message like, "This woman posts lewd and disgusting material online," which is true. And my boss forwarded the whole thing to me and like called me a bunch of times in a panic. This was last Monday evening. And as soon as I saw the email, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm not going to let this be dragged out and humiliate me. Like, I'm not apologetic. And I hate this job anyway. So
What was the job?
I was an executive assistant at a how much information can I give without outing my boss? Because she really didn't do anything wrong. I worked at a Hasidic-owned construction firm. So my thinking was slutty internet behavior is probably not the move. And even if I kind of don't think my boss was going to fire me, what I think was going to happen was that my life was going to become really uncomfortable for the foreseeable future. And I wanted no part of that. So
Yeah.
I did.
That's pretty cool, actually. Well,
Yeah.
not the bad part, but the good part. Like, just instead of letting them kind of decide what you do, you just go like, nope, sorry, I'll see ya. Have a good one. I like that.
Yeah, it was like the equivalent of just, blowing the thing up behind me so no one else can get into it. Like, fuck this. I'm not going to let this embarrass me. And it hasn't.
Yeah.
And I've, people stepped up for me. Like, I got a rash of subscriptions to my Patreon. So it wound up working out as well as it could have worked out. Plus, I'm free of that fucking job, which, again, I did not like. So they kind of did me a favor, but it was also really humiliating.
Yeah, I bet. Like having like everybody at your job basically know this about you.
Yeah.
Calling you out on it. Were they like saying like you shouldn't do that? Were they being like overtly judgmental or?
They weren't. I will say, I don't think that my boss did wind up telling most of the people who work there, but also about half the people who work there were her family members who I'm sure she would talk about this with. Like, why wouldn't you? And a couple of them even reached out to me privately to be like, hey, I think it's really fucked up that this happened to you. And, what you tweet and do in your time off the clock shouldn't be anybody's business. But my boss was not happy about it. And that's fair, I guess. It was just totally not in line with the kind of business she wanted to run. And that's fine.
I think it's bizarre that work tries to like not only get you to do extra work and to do unpaid work, but then also try to like dictate what you're allowed to do when you're not working. It's a little ridiculous.
And that is like an increasing trend too, right? Like more and more bosses are telling you like, oh, we look at your Facebook profile before we hire at this company or things like that. And it's like, okay, well then I'm just not going to have a Facebook profile. How about that?
Yeah, I don't have one either. So
It's all going back to Fordism, isn't it? It's like, oh, well, if you want this factory job, you have to like not eat garlic or send money back home to your relatives.
Right.
I love garlic.
Rachel, you're muted.
Was that really a thing?
Oh yeah. Henry Ford had like really strict behavioral guidelines for his workers, and the argument was, well, you're getting such like a high pay, we expect you to conform to certain standards. And it was a lot of like, you have to speak English in the home. Like the whole idea was to get people to become American citizens.
I mean, I know he was like a massive nationalist, anti-Semite piece of shit, so it's not surprising that he wanted to force people to assimilate. But it is definitely also the beginning of the fucking end for like any kind of meaningful sense of privacy at work.
Well, and now that we have the pandemic sending everyone to work from home, I wonder how long it's going to be until everyone who works in middle-class job or better, I guess most computer jobs at this point, I don't know, is just required to, like, because the company can farm out the necessary things you need for work to you at home. Oh, we don't have to pay rent for work anymore. You can pay it. You can do it at your computer. We don't have to pay for your computer, but also you have to install all the tracking software we use at work at home and, just set the hours that it's on or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's already happening. Those
Yeah.
services are already coming through. You had Facebook saying like, well, we're not going to pay you as much if you work from home because you don't have to live in the most expensive city. It's just, it's really frightening and going back to like the Pullman company towns, except dumber and stupider.
Well, doesn't this also undermine like the constant arguments of how one is supposed to like pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? Like, don't like capitalists tell you all the time, oh, if you're poor, get a job that pays relatively well and then live under your means, right? But like when you try to actually do that in real life, Facebook is like, actually, we're just gonna pay you less. If you're gonna go live in like bumfuck Alabama and pay like $400 a month in rent, then we're gonna pay you like a third of what we paid you before, and that's just how it's gonna be.
Right, and then we have everyone getting a second job in order to cope with that. Like, I don't know, sex work or doing a Patreon for leftism or a podcast, and then they find out about that and go like, oh, well, you shouldn't have had to do that. You shouldn't be doing that.
Right. Oh, and you should
Ain't that uniquely American?
is, I think, the most perfect just assessment of the problem, right? It's like one of the first things I went like properly viral for was somebody sent out like a weird email about how their car, like one of their employees' cars looked too poor, basically. And the text of the email said, you know, give or take, we know your salary, we know you should be able to afford a new car. Why is your car so old? Like, and it's this strange, horrific sense of entitlement that I think actually is worse than like the first time we did feudalism, right? Because when you talk about like feudalism, or even when you talk about like the modern labor movement in the United States and like West Virginia, where you had the like company towns and the company script, like at least then people knew exactly who to direct their anger towards. And now it's this nebulous, just leviathan of a monster that is completely like covering every aspect of how we live our lives.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
gave up on that shit a long time ago, and I probably shouldn't have. Like, I really should have been making, if I wanted to have a career, you know, like the middle class dream of a 9-to-5 that you stay at forever. If I wanted that, I should have been being respectable online and like really covering my tracks much more carefully. And that was never my style. And I know it's not just me who feels like, you know, something's got to fucking give. They can't spy on me all the time for $45,000 a year. Like, spy on me privileges start at way more money than that.
Is that why
Right.
liberals will talk with like their 3-follower Twitter accounts about how Medicare for all is bad? Like, is it they're just trying to impress their boss? Like, that has to be it. I mean, there's no way someone couldn't organically believe those things, I don't think. But
just
that would actually make a lot of sense.
just simping brands all day in order to get ahead in your carer.
Oh, that's definitely going to be a new kind of job.
Can you imagine being a reply guy for like fucking McDonald's?
They have reply guys, though. If you go on any tweet by McDonald's, like, there's always a batch of replies that's just like, McDonald's, I love your burgers. What are you doing?
I assume those people are literally getting paid, honestly. Like, I assume those people are like 20
I hope so.
marketing degree getting paid
I
30.
really hope they're getting paid.
They just have a small enough like online presence that it doesn't get so big you notice it like you do with like the Amazon fulfillment center ambassadors.
Yeah, I mean, that's much more believable than the Russian troll farms, I think.
No, it's just some Macedonian teenager with 20,000 accounts being paid 5 cents per tweet.
There you go.
You know what? Good on them.
It's a pretty good grift.
Yeah, no, nice money you can get.
I should start selling my opinion to people. We talked about this most of our episodes at this point, I think, about like how really we should have sold out. And trying to make money on Patreon is a fool's errand and is all going to Ren anyway. So like maybe I should start selling my opinions.
I mean, those
Just
are
for reference, I start selling my opinions at $20 per opinion. So if anyone out there is listening, hit me up. Thank you.
That's a really low price. Although it reminds me of, I was reading about like the actual cost of buying a vote. I don't know if any of y'all saw some of the journalism that was done into this. It was really interesting.
I'm so curious.
But like, people buy votes really cheap, y'all. like we're talking like $30 a vote. I was like, I wouldn't sell my vote. Come on, you got to give me like $500.
Honestly, the only
Gotta,
way I'm voting for Joe Biden is if he pays me. So Joe,
Pony up.
everybody else, honestly,
5,000.
I'll say this.
For Joe, we're gonna go $5,000 straight to me, and I'll be there.
I'm pretty sure that even joking about this on air is illegal, so we should probably take a over and say we're not actually going to do voter fraud ever.
Parody redacted. Parody.
It was parody, yeah.
we're just noting that there are only 3 career paths for anyone under the age of, I'll just say 40 anymore, which is grifting people with bots, selling your opinions, or selling the only thing of value you have left, which is, I assume, your video game systems, your vote.
Frankly, I would
My Nintendo Switch is worth more than my vote. Come on.
There's only 3 jobs that people under 40 have: grifter, grifter, grifter.
And
I would like to add podcaster to that. I feel like,
Podcast is a grift.
Yeah.
I mean,
Very much. This is a grift right
We
here.
are doing a grift
It's a
right
grift.
I'm grifting currently. That's why I'm here.
am I in a grift right now?
Yeah.
well, I mean, it could be described as pay us to pretend to hang out with us.
Kind of.
I mean, yeah.
There's certainly a parasocial element to it. Like every time I interact with a fan, it's so fucking surreal. Because it's like, you know a lot about me and I don't know you at all. Like,
I could talk about this subject for hours.
Oh,
So many creepy
I love
motherfuckers.
the attention, to be clear.
I love it too. That's the
Love
thing.
it.
Is like I will always respond with like haha or that's funny, just so that they give me another essay about something. Like it's just like, because it just makes me feel good. Like I wake up, I get like 3 essays about how brilliant I am, and I'm like, all right, cool. I it just powers me through the day.
I mean,
Right.
it's pretty genuinely, that part's kind of nice. I don't love the sexual harassment at
No.
all.
No.
Is that something that like the more sort of mask presenting folks experience as well, do you think? I would assume if a person, I know trans people get like a lot of weird attention by fetishists. So I assume that if you're like openly trans mask, it's about the same.
So I'm a trans woman, but I definitely present mask, and I don't get a whole lot, honestly. Mostly I just get hate. And if I get
Yeah?
anything. Yeah. I mean, most people just kind of, I mean, I'm not like a huge name on Twitter or something, so like it's not a big deal. It's mostly, I get more harassment from Nazis who are like we did a stream last Tuesday with Psychic Dolphin Garage, and not like some chud came in to basically just tell me my hair is Karen hair because I'm growing it out. And that's like, it goes from mild that to like, you're an absolute wingnut and we should destroy you. I don't know. I don't get a lot of sexual harassment. I don't think people sexualize me because I just kind of don't do femme things.
I mean, I would say having someone tell you that you have Karen hair is a decidedly like thing that women deal with. Like those kinds of comments are absolutely like targeted towards anybody who's femme identifying in the least.
I really appreciate when people like tell me to get into the kitchen, because like they're really trying to insult me, but like they don't know I'm trans, so it's like a secret winner. It's like it's pretty good.
That's actually true. I get more harassment when people assume I was assigned female at birth and then transitioned. Then I get lots of harassment.
Right. It's fucking gross. I remember recently-ish, Rax, you got some weird like fan mail where somebody said you have a witch face. Like, what's going up so hard?
Wait,
like,
witch or bitch?
I have the witch face. Witch face means you look Jewish.
It wasn't witch face. It was witch skull. It was a
Witch
skull.
Skull. Oh,
Oh, I
nice
get it.
read.
Chronology.
Yeah.
Straight up chronology mail.
Caliper hours.
I'm bewitched.
Yeah.
You
It was
know
like
it's
a much longer email too. Like this dude just looked at some picture of me and went through item by item and was just like, your hair's starting to get gray. You've got little wrinkles around your eyes that you might want to do something about. Also, you have a witch skull. Like, Jesus, Mary and Joseph, that's so many
I
things.
love when like those
would you
for me
please
that's like
adjust your
Easter eggs.
skull?
Like it's just like someone's writing out all this detailed stuff, and then like there's just like that one part of it that's just absolutely bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer when they're like in the first half and not the second half. That way I can just stop reading at that point.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean that stuff is great.
When I get truly bizarre ones, it's always kind of more fun than irritating.
I agree.
Yeah, I just turn it into content. Like make a video about like I just read it out loud in a funny voice, and boom. Then it's like a feedback loop. More
Content.
come.
Right.
It's great.
I've actually had a fun and incredibly bizarre series of exchanges with what I firmly believe is one person who started by faking screenshots of me talking like shit about a guy I've been talking to for like 5 minutes, y'all. I'm about to meet him for the first time in the next couple of weeks at all. Like, he's not like my boyfriend at all, but somebody sends him specifically this. And it was like me talking shit about him or whatever. And I was like, well, that's fucking weird. And then I just started getting like all of these emails from all these different people. And like they were all saying that this guy is like evil and like I should stay away from him. And then like every single time I like pushed or looked into details about the person who was saying it, like they didn't exist or they were impersonating somebody else. And so I think there's just like this one person who for whatever reason really doesn't want me to date. And I'm just like, this is wild. This has got like they put so much effort into this that it's like I'm bewildered but amused.
So this
It's
is
one of
the
those things where if
parasocial.
someone wants to spend X amount of hours dedicating themselves to like talking or thinking about me, I'll take it.
It's weird, but okay. Like I hope you're.
It's like some of these people sat down and were like, I wish I had a group of friends. I know I will be the entire group of friends. I will make 25 accounts on Twitter and they will all agree with me. And it'll be great.
Right. I have a parasocial relationship with this person on the internet, so I'm going to invent the other 10 people who hang out with them, and we're all going to have a sit down about your dating habits.
It's so weird. And I mean, like, I guess thanks for being concerned about who I'm dating. I do talk about Tinder like a lot on the air. So, like, truly free me from this hell. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't like dating at all. But
Oh my God, Rachel, it's your prince, the person who's sending all these emails.
right, the person who's pretending to be me to somebody else, that's gonna do it. I'm so
He's
That's-
gonna come sweep you off your feet.
dive in and save you with my pussy, and you're gonna be totally fixed just by having sex with me.
That's absolutely correct. That's how it works.
It's actually just you from the future trying to figure out how to communicate to past you to get you to not date a particular person.
Honestly, at this point, I would believe past me or future me like way faster. Like the thing is, like there are certain things I know I would tell myself if I was like future me trying to convince past me, and they ain't said it. So I wish they would.
Fair enough.
That would actually be less confounding.
The first thing I would say is probably "I'm you from the future." If there's any phrase I could think of, that would be the first one.
Like we live in the, you can video chat me as myself. I'll believe you. Like,
Right, but that opens up. So how's the future doing? It's like I really don't want to talk about that. We need to talk about what you're doing so you don't do the thing.
Well, I do like an exchange. If you want me to fix something, you got to give me one fact about the future, and then I'll
Right.
change one habit.
where am I going to
Okay.
put those investments, though? Just kidding. I don't have investment money. Who has investment
No.
So this is basically just Terminator as a rom-com.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good
money?
movie.
Do it, weirdly. I would definitely date future me.
I would as
I
well.
think that's the joke. Is that I fall in love with future me, actually. I don't know if future me would have present me, though. I definitely would not date past me.
I wouldn't either. Yeah, no, definitely. Unless it's like 2 minutes ago, then maybe. But
So our only choice is to have a parasocial relationship with future us.
Right.
Well, anyway.
My new best friend is the concept of myself in the future.
Isn't that a Whitney Houston song?
I'm becoming like the Twitter guy.
You know, maybe the Twitter guy has it right. Maybe I should date him.
No, I think I should become a Twitter reply guy myself. I should just make like 10 new accounts, write Patriot in the bio, and just go to town, you know?
I'll
Those
be
guys
honest,
seem like they're having a good time. They always seem
Yeah.
angry.
Well, I mean, didn't Scott Adams literally do that to himself on Metafilter? Like he invented a whole bunch of sock
Yes.
puppet accounts to say that he was awesome, actually?
yeah.
What
I
the
love
fuck?
the word "actually" there.
That's amazing.
That's so
It's
sad.
so like these are the bots that the rich actually spend their money on, and it's entirely to pad their own fucking egos. Like,
Turns out things haven't changed since like royal courts and shit from the whenever the fuck.
great, we love to see it. So it is also a certain holiday weekend. I would like to propose. I have a friend who's also having their birthday this weekend, and I'm gonna give a shout out to Jermaine, birthday baby, for the 4th of July, which is why I'm gonna be blowing things up this weekend. What about y'all? Anybody blowing anything up?
Hell no. I'm staying in my house.
I just want to say that all countries matter, and so I don't acknowledge this holiday because we don't need to show any special attention to anything for any reason.
That's really funny. I'm gonna steal that one and not give credit.
Wow, what the fuck?
Sorry.
Right.
Intellectual
Sorry.
property isn't real. All ideas,
Yeah,
once
I
you
don't
say
believe
them,
in it.
Yeah.
Under communism, all of my great takes are for the people.
Well, they're flying. They're doing another like military flyover over the Hudson for the 4th tomorrow. So I'm just going to pretend those planes are for me because I've conquered New York.
Hell yeah.
I'm just going to march
I
through
think
the
a good
Washington
4th
Square Arch.
I think a good 4th of July celebration would be, instead of spending millions or billions on these weird parades, we could just give them to homeless people. I think that would be a very noble expedition for this country, instead of wasting, because I remember last year in DC, they had this giant military thing. They had all the trucks there. They had tanks and shit. It's like,
jeez.
BC always goes all out for 4th of July. It's really embarrassing.
Was that the Trump parade I saw on Twitter? Last
Probably.
Oh God, that was a year ago. All right, yeah, I remember that.
Wasn't there an issue because the streets couldn't support the tanks, so they just sort of sat there?
Yes,
Yeah,
and it also rained a
incredible.
bunch, and then they couldn't drive things because I guess our military equipment doesn't function in the rain.
That's why it
So
costs
cool.
$60 million an item, because so it doesn't work in the rain.
Exactly.
America. So that is why I say we should blow things up this weekend. I'm not going to say you should ever bomb anywhere other than fireworks. Don't don't bomb anything for the 4th of July, but do blow up some fireworks. This is a satire show.
All right.
Absolutely satire. I'm not going to do any particular damage. I have no plans to do that. All I'm saying is there's protests all weekend, and I don't know what the cops are going to do, but they like to blow things up, so
I think stealing fireworks from like public fireworks displays would be pretty funny. So like all the boomers
be.
show up for their like little
there's no
picnic, and then
fireworks?
nothing happens.
can
And then
we,
also
like,
fireworks scare the dogs, so it's like a win-win.
can we like
Oh,
invent
dogs? What the fuck?
fireworks? What? Sorry.
Not liking dogs makes you a cop.
Dogs are amazing.
Dogs are amazing, and cops train them to be cops. That's literally all they know how to do
It's
with
abuse.
dogs.
No, dogs are innocent even when they're doing cop stuff.
Yeah.
They
I
have
would
no
like-
concept of cop.
I would like to mention to the NSA agent named Mordecai, who's on my trail, that I have no part in any of this.
I like that it's a nice Jewish NSA agent. That speaks to me.
Do you
Well,
get
he's probably very lonely because they're all Mormon.
Oh,
Oh.
Don't
God.
drink, don't do drugs, know a lot of languages.
That's true. That's freaky true.
If I had to choose between learning any language or every language and drugs, I would probably choose drugs.
oh yeah.
Honestly, I could like be the universal translator. I think that would be cooler than drugs because I could talk to literally anybody, and all I really want is attention, especially when I'm on drugs.
That's
I mean-
true.
See, we
Fair
wouldn't
enough.
need this if we
Yeah,
just
but-
fulfilled the communist project of Esperanto.
You don't
Done.
need universal translation when you have drugs, though. You just are like, pass the booth. And like the person, it doesn't matter. The person sitting across from you can speak, Portuguese, Swahili, whatever they speak in Australia. And it wouldn't matter, like you would just be like, here you go. And they would be like, yep, thank you. And like that's the communication solved. You don't need language.
I think I
That's-
had the same thing said to me in like 9th grade by the guy selling me weed at the time. Language.
It's time for another Rachel absolutely sucked until she was like 25 story. So I literally did not smoke weed until college.
Me either.
I
was
started
I
2 years
I
ago.
never snuck out. I never drank when I wasn't supposed to. I was never once drunk in school in high school, and I
I
feel
had no friends. I couldn't get drunk.
I feel like I missed an important part of my adolescence by not being a shithead in high school, and I really regret it.
I don't think you did, because I was a shithead in high school, and I feel like it mostly sucked.
Like I know people through like the DSA and stuff who are still in high school who are definitely doing all of this stuff. And sometimes like the kids are just so much better nowadays as people in general
That is-
than what I saw. So like I feel like we didn't miss much. And also it doesn't sound, maybe it's because I'm like 31 and I'm reflecting on things and feeling really tired, but like, God, it just sounds tiring to stay up all night and because you can't get like good drugs. You have to just like go to the King Supers and figure out what in the medicine aisle can be a drug and then see what it does. It's not fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely benefited from not starting my drug experimentation until I was like 17, because I went to college early. So like I started drinking at a pretty normal time, but it was in a weird context.
Huh.
Yeah. I went to college early because I got bullied.
Oh. Into
I can't believe
doing good in school? What?
I got bullied in high school.
I love the idea of being bullied into being good
Alright.
at school.
All right.
I mean, isn't that what school does?
I've never been good at
Listen.
school. I am like medium well at school for my like school capacity. Like I'm very smart, but I'm very ADHD and I don't do my homework. So like I can bullshit on the spot and like incredibly well. But like anything that requires like any kind of like meaningful schedule outside of the classroom, like I have to rely on other people for that entirely. Like I have to have a study group and they have to tell me when to show up. Like that's
Same.
at school. But I am really, really good at being like persuasive and affable, and that definitely helped.
That is my exact same experience of school. I just ended up a 6-time college dropout because of it, and I think it's fine.
I got two theories and we ended up in the same place, baby.
It's the thing we need to do, whether it's in school or activism or anywhere else, we need to make it really, really easy for ADHD people, and in my case, autistic people, just show up. You just tell me when to show up. I'll do it. That's it.
Yeah.
And instead, we have a weird social media patchwork.
Yeah, I can't keep track of shit because I do actually
Neither.
have ADHD. But like, if other people tell me when and where to be places, I hella can do it.
You give me 24 hours
All
advance
right,
notice, I'm there.
Yeah. Do we
I
have
just wanna
other
say-
non-neurotypical types?
For the record, forget all you squares. I got wild in high school. Totally worth it. I
Yeah,
definitely
you
have
are in Mexico.
massive guilt for stupid things that I did. Definitely don't have complexes over that. It's totally worth it. Go for it.
And that's why we all look up to you as the cool person.
That's
I
correct.
figure probably our audience is predominantly younger than us, honestly, because our politics don't vibe super well with like centrists, and people our age are a lot of centrists. So,
That's what
Who's
what-
our?
what
I am a
age are we
crisp-
talking
I am a
about?
crisp 24 years old. Thank you.
see, you
What age group are we talking then?
oh no,
I mean,
I'm 30.
Okay,
Yeah,
we're talking 30 and above.
Yeah.
Central.
Oh, I am the oldest person here. Awesome.
How?
I'm 36.
Cool.
65.
Oh, wow.
Oh, you look amazing.
Are you
good.
taking tips
I
from
can't tell
random
if
people on Twitter?
I broke racks. I'm sorry.
Uh,
You look amazing, though. You're beautiful.
Oh, jeez.
I forgot what I was gonna say.
You were
I
talking
had
about
a
regretting your
point.
past.
I had a point. I don't want to talk about the past. That's terrible. Let's not.
All right. So, what is something that everybody has done recently that they are proud of? We'll start with Rax because you're our special new guest.
Oh, boy. That I'm proud of?
We talked about the beard.
Oh, right. I was nominated for like a fancy award. That was kind of cool. And I sold the book. That was cool. Yeah, I've done like some cool stuff. Good job, Rax King. None of it feels real. Like it feels so fake that I would be nominated for any kind of award at any point. So I'm choosing to believe that didn't happen.
So, tell us about what you were nominated for. I know it was food writing.
Yeah, it was a James Beard Media Award. I was nominated in the personal essay category for an essay that I wrote about Guy Fieri and my ex-husband, and I didn't wind up winning, but that's okay because it's an honor just to be nominated.
But actually,
Really cool.
like, it is a lot of exposure. So, what, as much as you feel like divulging, I know ex-husbands can be kind of gnarly business to talk about on the fly, but as much as you feel like divulging, as a just ardent fan of Guy Fieri, like, what was it about?
The essay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was partly about my experience of leaving my ex-husband who was abusive, and partly about how, like, concurrently I started to get really into diners, drive-ins, and dives, like, fanatically so.
Okay.
What's up?
Oh, I said, okay.
Okay. And how very different Guy Fieri was from my ex-husband, just as a person and figure.
So we can just sort of imply your ex-husband by the absence. Tell me what you love about Guy Fieri.
Yeah, I love that he's just uncool as shit. And if for whatever reason he is listening to this, I mean that so kindly. I like that he's tacky and like loud, and that when he hugs people, it kind of looks like it hurts them a little bit. And I love his show. It's so relaxing to me. I love everything about his show. I still watch it all the time.
Hell yeah. I mean, everything I've heard about him is that he is a stellar human being, and if this ever makes it back to him, dude, come on, not safe for long, so for real, because I want to talk to you about
That'd be awesome.
Like, I would love to talk to Guy about class, because
I met him once, very briefly.
Ooh, what was that like?
It was incredible. It was like meeting Jesus. I like that.
yeah.
Over one of his book signings, like all dolled up, wearing a fur coat and shit. Because I was like, I'm gonna meet Guy fucking Fieri, and he told me as I went up to get my book signed that I won the jacket award. It was like, wow, you win the jacket award for the day, and I have carried that with me every fucking day of my life for 3 years.
So it's not entirely surprising that you were nominated for awards.
Yeah, I was about to say, Rax King nominated for a Beard Award, won Jacket of the Day Award.
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna counterclockwise this to be weird. Charlie, what are you excited about? What's new for you?
What's new for me? Oh gosh, well, so honestly, it's been a really rocky few months. I've been missing a lot of my meds for a few months, so on and off. So I just got them all back, all my ADHD meds, all my trans meds, all the things. I feel great for the first time in months. I've been trying to get out and do like protests and shit whenever I can, but mostly a lot of what I've spent my time doing recently is doing a bunch of theory reading on systems analysis and how like we can design systems that actually facilitate activism and participation and because I've been on a bit of a crusade for like 6 months now against the fact that a lot of what we do is borrowing from the systems of work and corporatism that we're all used to. Like how a lot of activism is done over Facebook or Slack or something. And for me, that doesn't work, and it never has. And so I've been doing a lot of reading on systems analysis, and also the thing I'm proud of related to that is forcing myself to just sort of like cold call people whose numbers I have in my phone about activist stuff who I haven't seen or heard from in a long time, and just telling them, one, what I'm good at, what I can help with, what I can help change, and also like begging people to just tell me when things are happening 24 hours in advance so I can show up. And it's starting to make a huge difference. And I might have some opportunity to use that knowledge in some of the groups I'm in. And I hope I can increase that because it's really, really important to me. And I guess I'm proud of the fact that I spent all of my time when I was incredibly depressed, barely able to move. Like if anyone here takes ADHD meds, I think you know the feeling of being unable to think your body into action without them. And so I struggled with that for months, and it's been hard, but I'm really, really proud of what I did with that time. And I think I've come out with some knowledge I can use to like make the sort of changes I want so that we don't rely on, because so much of what we do relies on the exact things that keep me perpetually unemployed, like being able to do all of your work from home over Slack, make phone calls, constantly interact with people in like a sales context where it's like, I don't want to sell activism to people. I want to just tap into their desire to actually just show up and make it so that any given person only has to put in a few hours a week at the most. And because there's, tens of thousands of people doing it, we're fine. That would be really rad. So that's what I've been focused a lot on. Just last part of the sentence. I'm reading right now Designing Freedom by Stafford Beer, and oh my god, it's giving me so many fucking words to describe everything I've needed to describe. Feels good.
So two things. One, I'm really excited and grateful to you for doing disability advocacy, especially within DSA. We don't usually get super nitty gritty into DSA stuff because, our audience is much bigger than DSA. Yeah. But I am in DSA. Charlie obviously is in DSA. Brandon is currently chair of Metro Atlanta DSA. It's something that's very much baked into this program and into sort of our ideologies, generally speaking. And one of its weaknesses is that it is set up in that way, in a very sort of professional managerial capacity. So
yes,
that's it. Grateful to you for doing that kind of work for non-neurotypical people, so that we can have some frameworks for what to ask for and what we need to ask for in order to get the accommodations we need to be full participants.
My goal. Oh, sorry. Who do you want to finish?
Oh, well, the last bit was just going to ask you to give me a couple of those terms that you learned.
Oh, okay. So because the thing I'm really focused on is not just like, I got kicked out of more than one college because like the accommodations I needed to survive were not things they were willing to provide, and so I think a lot. What I've been trying to do for my whole life, but especially over the last few months, is trying to figure out how we can design a system that literally works for everyone, rather than. I don't want disabled people to have to ask for accommodations. I want the system to, because I'm very much on the social model of disability. Like if a person has access to everything that they need within a system to assist to help them succeed in it, then you don't have to ask for accommodations. You don't even have to, like, you can consider yourself unable to do certain things depending on your body and your experiences, but like you won't have to like ask the system to change for you. So one of the things I'm thinking about a lot regarding the Stafford Beer book is, and I'm going to relate this to gender, and I'll try and keep this short. But the idea is like the idea that only variety can absorb variety, meaning that like, we have a system of gender in our society where you tick an M or an F box and that's what you get. But I've always considered gender to be a system which depends on the people around you and who's interacting with you. So and that's, oh God, there's no way to make this short. Short version, without context, being autistic, this makes it hard. I want to give so much context. I want to create a system that simply asks everyone what their gender is, puts that into a computer, and then presents something that is analyzable for us so we can understand it, rather than a computer system that we expand by adding a third checkbox for whatever gender has been able to mobilize politically to justify their inclusion on the MF, etc. checkbox system. And so same with like DSA or any group I'm in.
Right.
I want to design a system where you don't have to come up with your checkbox and your checkbox is not given. And the thing I struggle with is that is a PMC thing, is, well, we just add more checkboxes, we comport ourselves. The thing about the other thing about the Stafford Beer book, the second thing, which promise to keep short, is we're using computers in the exact wrong way. Right now, we're all struggling to understand the input of the world around us, because what we're doing is we're using computers to amplify the amount of variety that exists in the world, rather than collect and synthesize it for us so we can understand it. So you could think of like, if you got a sheet of paper mailed to your house that had a list of actions that are coming, and just a few pages of theory or something that you wanted to think about on it, that would be a way of digesting the sheer amount of information that we have into something actionable for the average human being. And we could use a computer to literally compile the most pressing pieces of information that we would want to send to people. What we do instead is we have Twitter, Slack, Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and I have to check all of these things. I spent 2 hours this morning across all these things trying to figure out the action I'm going to later tonight.
Right. It's not consolidated enough.
Yeah, and there's no, so we're using and it's almost not useful to reconsolidate that information from those sources. I don't want to do that thing, because Stafford Beer's idea of society is, well, we have these new bureaucracies papered on top of the old ones. That would be the equivalent of hiring 10 people to trawl through Twitter and Facebook and send you a digest. I want to step back and make a new thing that just gives me the things we need.
I have some good news for you, actually. There is a new thing, and it is actually happening inside DSA like right now. One of the committees I'm on, we specialize in mutual aid and relief for COVID and like COVID complications. So that's like, food, housing, childcare, those kinds of things are like what we're trying to do. And we conceived, well, we didn't conceive of, we started using a structure called the block structure. And the core idea behind that is that every single person meets up within their own community. And so you have just an instant connection with people who live near you, who have the same local concerns that you do. And it's about mobilizing and creating power on that individual basis. So you only have like one person to check, right?
That's right.
One person would be, your block captain. And I think that's been really, really successful and awesome. And especially because like I am a person with ADHD and I do sort of work with the leadership in Metro Atlanta. So like it's something that like we all kind of have been working out together. Like how do we reach everybody?
Yeah, and I know you've
the
talked.
non-stereotypical. I'm like, hell yeah, this is totally working. So it's great.
Yeah, you talked to me about that, I think, a little bit after the last stream, and I'm very, we'll have to talk more about that. I'm very interested.
It's called the Member Mobilizing Program for people who have access to DSA stuff. And since most people don't necessarily have that access, I'm going to go ahead and move on. But thank you so much, Charlie. You're fabulous.
Thank you.
Andrea, what are you excited about?
I had a lot of time to think about my answer, and I don't know. I mean, I've been eating healthy lately. I've been a vegetarian for 4 months. That's cool.
Okay.
I am too. That's awesome.
What was your reason for that?
Say that again?
What was your reason?
I just like animals. My main thing was, my main thing was like, I was always under the impression that eating healthier implied needing to study a lot. But then I actually started studying, and it's pretty fun. And then, like if you learn how to cook, you can like get relatively cheap ingredients. And the pandemic helped because now I don't really feel tempted to get fast food all the time. So it's like, that kind of helped ease me in. But
yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
I cannot think of like, I'm not gonna just like roll over you. You're awesome, Andrea. You're fabulous. Thank you.
I'm really high right now, so like I'm spaced.
Well, so I'm going to use that delicious segue. Do you see how clever I am? Delicious. It's clever. To talk to our beautiful, wonderful, frequently occurring guest, John Levitt. John, what are you excited about? I know you do food justice stuff and you love food, so.
Oh yeah. I was thinking about it and I thought, well, I made a lasagna last night. That takes a real long time. But before the COVID, I used to run a thing called the Red Shelf at my local bar, which was just a shelf of usually donated, but usually stuff I found, radical leftist literature, theories, fiction. I had a rule like for every like edition of Marx, I had to put like a gay murder mystery in.
Cool.
It's the bread and roses rule.
I'm unironically into this. Go ahead.
No, it was really good. I did a fundraiser for it like a year ago, and I'm like, I could keep this going perpetually if I just get like $100 because used books usually cost like $1, and I ended up getting like 350. So I have this huge stack of books that I've like curated from various used booksellers. I mean, so much so that the guy outside my building who sells books now just like hands me old copies of Michael Harrington's books because he knows I'll always buy them. Anyway, long story short, I haven't been able to do that because all the bars have closed and probably won't reopen. And then I found out, and I haven't been able to do a lot of protest-related stuff because I have an immunocompromised partner and I don't want to get him sick. So when the city hall occupation started and they restarted the People's Library, I brought a box of books down there, and I'm pretty proud about that.
Hell yeah.
Love to hear that.
Cool.
That's awesome.
I also got into a Twitter conversation with one of my favorite academics about food writing.
Okay, now I have to know who it is. Who is it?
Dr. Sarah Tapper.
Okay, and why is Dr. Sarah Tapper so amazing?
She's great because her whole thing is about destroying the myth of the family farm.
Okay, like talking about how like industrialized farming has hit everybody.
Well, it's also just like for most of America's history, we've had a plantation or a tenant farmer system, and most people who own farms don't work on them. They own land that they then rent out to the people who actually do the work. Right. And it's not like there's her big thing is that there's not a dichotomy between massive corporate farms and small family-run farms. There's a third model that's very successful, which is large, vertically integrated worker-run farms. Because a lot of things scheduled as farmland in the United States are actually just tax write-offs, or they're just waiting for the land speculation to hit. Like this happened on Long Island. Like they kept farming potatoes, even though it wasn't profitable to farm potatoes. Then they didn't switch to something more profitable, like duck, for example.
Right,
because they were waiting for the highways to come in and the Levittowns to be built for that land to suddenly become a lot more worthwhile, a lot more profitable, and then they would just sell it off. Because treating things as speculative commodities and not things to be used creates bad things.
Right, of course. I mean, I think, I had like a sort of sound off about that earlier this week about like people who buy a home that is bigger than they can afford with the intention of renting half of it out. You know, like this is still something absolutely that gets recommended to people with wealth. It's like, okay, well, just, you know, buy some land, rent it out. And it's so just unproductive because now look at like this massive crisis we have with COVID, like you were saying earlier. And, you know, as a direct consequence of this crisis, people can't pay rent anymore. And so all of the systems of like landlords and frankly lordships, you know, are just collapsing because the bottom fell out.
And I want to add to that with like gig work with Lyft and Uber and the home bigger than you can afford. Now we're literally actually forcing people to do that in the sense that like I have a car that can seat 4 people and has a decent trunk because that was what was required for Lyft and Uber, which I needed to do at the time and able to be able to afford the car. Which means that I now have a car, which luckily we can still afford, but is larger than we would need, but was necessary. And then Lyft and Uber realized, oh, instead of just telling people that they should be buying a car that fits our standards, we'll just literally buy all the cars that fit our standards and rent them out to the people who do it.
Yeah, there's
sounds like the same thing.
That at all.
You what?
Well,
Sorry?
Oh, I said there's nothing fucked up about that at all.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just look at any system in place that isn't good and just think, why isn't this good? Capitalism. Literally everything.
Rent-seeking behavior.
It's just
Destroy private property.
Well, and that like even goes back to the story Rax was sharing earlier. Like she got fired because her company was Hasidic, and that Hasidic company had certain ethical standards that they agreed on with their like customers, you know, and like if it had absolutely nothing to do with their bottom line, like they probably would have looked the other way. But like they are so profit driven themselves that, you know, they would fire a good, solid employee because she's like making faces like, yeah, maybe not.
Fire me, I quit.
Right. So they would like have these issues with like a solid employee, you know, because they did something that was culturally different. You know, and it's a rough fucking setup. I don't think it's working for anybody, really.
Did y'all see that story of the cop that shared a Black Lives Matter post and then got fired?
God, that's
No, what?
No, what?
Yeah, a cop, like, so I don't know what the social media was, but it was like some form of like a quote tweet of their like family member at a protest, and then saying like, "Oh, I'm so glad that she's there," and you know all that kind of stuff. And then like the chief was telling her like, "You need to fix this. You created a problem. I've got the mayor calling me."
Like,
And then
about black people?
yeah, literally, it was just like the post was just Black Lives Matter, and it was just, and then it resulted in her getting fired. And then, like, it's just, like, it's ridiculous. Like, they just make a problem out of everything for no reason. Like, this is, like, the hypothetical good cop. You know, like, oh, yeah, well, some cops are supportive. And then they get fired.
Oh, gosh. I hope this radicalizes the cop to systemic change to see that you should quit your job if you do an unethical job. Cool. Don't go get another cop job. That's rad.
And, you know, until maybe before you get fired from that job, try to do things that actually help people. You know, like,
steal their secrets, steal their chats.
Strategy, right? And the rank and file strategy is one where like you intentionally flood certain markets with sympathetic people who are working there so that you can take control of those markets as you become a larger share of their workforce and they become more dependent on you. And I think like, I'm not saying anybody should join the cops because frankly, I think that's a lost cause. But if you are a cop and you're a decent human being who is capable of basic levels of empathy and you happen to be listening to this, become an agent of change, my dude. Just do it. Like, just get fired. It's great. It'll help you out. Everybody who's gotten fired for believing in something bigger and better totally is cool with it. Rax included, me included. You know, just do it. Just be better. Do it anyway.
Be a mole. Give all of your local activists all the inside information.
Hell yes.
We could really use it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so with that wonderful, this is a satire show, by the way, you know, just in case anybody like wants to try and like get on the espionage act. Like,
I am a comedian.
Satire.
All right, the podcast is going to get recode.
Oh no! So that leaves me and Kennedy to talk about what we're excited about, and I bet I can speak for both of us actually, because
I think you can.
Oh, you think? Wait, is there something other than not?
No, I was saying I think you can. I think you can.
Okay, okay. So, not safe for long. So we're actually coming up on both our 1-year anniversary, which is July 10th, right?
Well, so we recorded. We were saying that the 1-year anniversary was the 7th, but it turns out that's when we recorded the first episode, not when we released it. But you know what? That's the anniversaries. You know, this is like a relationship, right? Like you're like. Is our anniversary when we went on our first date? Is it when I first texted you? Is it when we first banged? When is our anniversary? You know, like
Just give me a day.
we're the same problem with our show. So it's the 7th. We said it was the 7th. It's the 7th. Fuck it.
Okay, fine. So it's the 7th. We have our 1-year anniversary coming up. And also to be released, I believe, on the same day, or perhaps on the 10th if we get like way too many people, which we kind of did. That is our 100th episode. And holy shit, like that is so cool. Many of y'all are here because you've been on Not Safe before. Rax, you're a newbie. I hope you'll come back again because you're fabulous. And like truly, like it is absolutely flooring me. Kennedy, you have it first though. Tell me about how excited you are about this.
Oh yeah, I mean we're tired as shit. We worked really hard on this 100th episode stuff. We recorded. It was one of those things where we sent out the asks to people, thinking a lot of people would be busy and they would say, "I can't do this right now," whatever. But like way more people than we expected said yes, and so we just ended up recording with like a couple dozen of our favorite people, little segments for the 100th episode, and it just took forever. It was really tiring, but it was also really cool because like it's first of all, it's coming together into a really cool thing. And if you're a patron, you already have access as of today to the uncut version of episode 100. It's like 6.5 hours long. It's crazy. And then the cut, hopefully around in half version, will be out for the general public. In like in a few more days, like Rachel was saying, probably the 7th. But yeah, it was really exciting, not just because it's going to be a really cool piece of content, but also because it was really wonderful to sort of check in with so many of our favorite people and have so many people just sort of encourage us that, you know, hey, you did 100 episodes. That's really amazing. And that like, you know, that like they expect to see more and better things from us, basically. And so, you know, that feels good to like get that reassurance and have so many people chime in and say, yes, we're glad this show exists.
It's pretty good.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, and I can say I personally am so excited to be part of this show. Like, unironically, the people I have met through working on the show are some of my favorite people. Y'all are some of my favorite friends. Like, this is not just me kissing ass for the sake of clout or like trying to further the show. Like genuinely, like it has been such a relief to find people who see the same problems I do and have like creative, innovative solutions to them. You know, it means the fucking world to me to work alongside people like Kennedy and like Brandon and like Leia and like Ren and like Dre and like Lau. You know, I think I named everybody. If I missed somebody, for the love of God, please tell me, but I'm sorry.
That's the official team. You actually got everyone.
Oh,
I never even
fabulous. Okay, great. So yeah, like these are some of the most amazing people. Y'all are some of my dearest friends. Like the fact that we have made it to episode 100 is fucking awesome. Things we have coming up in the next 100 episodes and the next year are also just really exciting. I don't know if we can share any of them quite yet, but it has been all of the attention-seeking dreams I've ever had and more.
And that's a good summary.
Yeah, and so with that, for everybody who is currently here, y'all are all so fabulous. Thank you so much for coming. Where can we reach you? We'll start again with Rax.
I can be found on Twitter, Instagram, really everywhere as Rax King is Dead. I also have a Patreon, which you could subscribe to if you so desired. I publish essays like twice a week. It's an absolutely insane degree of output. I don't know how much longer I can keep it up. So get in on the ground floor.
Chad?
Oh, me. I'm on Twitter. Just put it in the description there at ExtentCMW. You can find me there. If you're in Colorado, hit me up. let's do some stuff. Like we got so much going on here.
Awesome. Andrea?
My website is speed.dog. You can just type that into the address bar.
I forgot that was your website. It's so good.
That's so good. All right, John.
Hey, I can be found at Twitter at levitalone, and levitalone.com is my personal site with my writings and art. And good of you.
Hell yeah. And for myself, at Reach Rachel Con on Twitter. And, if you want to email me at Gmail, but no one emails me. And Kennedy T. Cooper on Twitter. And also, most importantly, we are Not Safe for Wonks. That is at NSF Wonks on Twitter. And if you would like to give us money, please, we are very hungry. It is www.patreon.com/notsafe. And
we're always putting cool stuff on the Patreon. Like I said, the episode 100, episode 99 isn't even out yet. That's coming out today or tomorrow. But the patrons already are listening to the full, uncut, 6.5-hour long version of episode 100. So if you feel like you're missing out, go on over to patreon.com/notsafe. We appreciate all of you so much. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
we love you. And since